Welcome to another episode of The Other Side of Sales. I'm Kasey Jones.
And I'm Ashleigh.
And our new policy here is that we start with a moment of gratitude. I went first last time. Ashleigh, why don't you kick us off?
Sure. I'm actually going to say I'm super grateful for a new friend that I've made actually through this podcast, and that's Miss Sunanda Nair.
Yes.
I am so delighted that we've struck up a friendship primarily via angry texts at each other when things don't go our way. But it's reminded me the importance of having someone you can just vent at that is not your spouse.
Yes.
And that's been a huge lifesaver for me the past few weeks. And I strongly encourage anyone who is in a serious relationship to make sure that you don't fall victim to the mistake that I made, which is when things are stressful with your job, you only talk to your spouse because then they think that you're screwed and that your job sucks. And talking to somebody else in this profession that knows what it's like and that knows what it's like to balance a relationship with your job is a godsend, not just for you, but for your partner as well. So I am grateful for Sunanda for reminding me of that and for making me giggle and being ridiculous with me as we both try to maintain our sanity.
I think that is a really good one. And hells yeah, Sunanda's absolutely incredible. And hopefully we'll be seeing a lot more of her in the other side of sales sort of world and community because she's brilliant. Also,
she has no choice in the matter. I'm going to stalk her now.
Seriously. And
sorry, Sunanda.
Everyone should follow her on Twitter. She produces amazing content, long, really thoughtful threads, super engaging. She's just a really, really fascinating human. And I'm going to kind of piggyback and I'm going to say in general, our guests. Like, I have learned so much from so many of these people. I am so grateful for them. Sunanda is an amazing example. Julia Andrews, she and I have become really close here in Portland, and she's just an absolute force. Jamie Diglio, holy moly.
Oh my gosh, Jamie's amazing.
She's amazing. Mariah, holy moly.
My gosh.
I'm so excited to get to know her better. There are so many people that we have interviewed that I am just really in awe of and impressed by. And I just feel really grateful to kind of be in their orbit and be getting to know them better and learning from them. And I think one of the things that I like about this topic is I think it's a really, really good segue into what we're going to be talking about. But I think the real sort of message is there's so much that you can learn from other people, and there's something really incredible about leveraging this industry, leveraging this job to make connections with people that are doing incredible things and have a unique perspective on all of it and are willing and eager to kind of share with others.
Absolutely. And I'll take that a step further. Even I'm grateful for the guests, and there have been a couple that have challenged me.
Yeah.
Not just from like I disagree with them standpoint, but pushed me to be a better person or up my skills or caused me to look at things in a different way. That constant refresh helps break up a lot of the monotony that we can all fall victim to. And that's been such a breath of fresh air and gotten me so much more excited about kind of what's coming in this next decade.
Yeah. And I completely agree with that. And I think one of the things that's really been rewarding, I think, for both of us in this whole experience is we'll come out of an interview and immediately Ashleigh and I are like texting each other or slacking each other being like, oh my God, this means we should do this, or we should have asked them this question, or we need to change this process that we have. And so it's this constant learning. And there's something about that sort of, I don't know, permanent state of evolution that makes life a lot more interesting and also a lot more rewarding.
100%. So, Kasey. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so why don't I try doing a kind of a quick intro here?
Okay.
All right, so Kasey, you you always amaze me with the community that you've built around you, especially of sales pros and marketing pros and startup pros. And that's something that, I'll be honest, I struggled with a lot early in my career, both as an SDR and as an SDR manager. I think it took me probably about a good 4 to 5 years to realize that networking wasn't just something I did for prospecting, but B, to realize that I wasn't alone. And so networking is something that I feel like everyone talks about, but it's really hard to do well. And you're one of the people who I've always thought did it very well.
Thank you.
Which is one of the reasons why I reached out and stayed in touch, because the moment I discovered who you are, I was like, oh, this is someone who's got this and I need to figure this out. So I know a bunch of other people have asked you about this recently. I did a great webinar, not just on networking, but on personal branding recently with James Buckley, who's amazing. And we're going to have him on here soon. We'll put a link to that webinar in the notes because you should all listen to it. But how do you do networking in this world today?
Well, okay. So one, I just want to make it really clear that I was truly terrible at it for a long time. And, I'm someone who growing up, like, I did not have a lot of friends. I went to 3 high schools in 3 states in 3 years. Like, I was never a cool kid. And then I went to a really small college where I did not fit in. And so I did not have a lot of friends in college. So it's one, I really appreciate that you think I'm good at it now. It was a long time coming. And I can honestly say that in my late 30s, I have a lot more friends and close friends than I have at any other point in my entire life. And I think one of the things, and I talk about this a little bit with personal brand, or personal branding, I hate the term. And I think the term turns people off from doing the work. And I kind of feel like networking is the same, where it's a bad term. It sucks. It feels
Seedy.
False and superficial. Yeah, it feels sleazy. It like brings out the worst sort of preconceived notions about being in sales. So maybe it's not networking, maybe it's relationship building or friendship building or connection building or personal community building. I think about it more like that, where it's not about, these quick, superficial one-off conversations. It's about actually getting to know someone and learning from them and truly forming a relationship. And so, we'll talk through a couple of sort of my recommendations of how to do it. But I think the biggest thing is take that mindset shift and stop thinking about, oh, how many people can I meet at an event? But how many, and maybe it's not even how many, but like, how deep of a connection can I actually form with people?
So, I mean, I get that shift.
Yeah.
Playing devil's advocate for a second. Why does that matter?
So here's the deal. And I think this is the other thing about it, is when you're younger, you don't realize why it matters because you haven't had as many, frankly, really shitty experiences in your life and your career to where having a strong network can save you.
Yeah.
And as you get older and like you get fired or you have an awful experience at work, or it could also be a positive thing, you have a dream that you want to achieve, being able to tap into these resources and get people's advice and get people's support will make all the difference in the world. And I will also say the flip side is true. Being able to be that person for someone else, being able to amplify someone else's voice, or, be the sounding board, be the shoulder to cry on. There is something incredibly rewarding about that. And it makes you just feel a little bit better about your place in the world and, and your future.
No, and I can't stress enough I think there's also a lot of, that's personally how I've tackled my own imposter syndrome, is by being able to be that for somebody else. Not humble brag or soliciting things like that, but just when every time someone reaches out and asks for help or asks for advice, or I've kind of, I don't think I've coined it, but I've started hearing a lot more people use it lately, but the sanity check calls.
Yes.
Where it's people calling and saying, hey, I just need to bounce this off.
Yes.
Somebody who's sane for a minute. That's such a validation on every level that I can't ignore. Not that I know what I'm doing, because I still have trouble believing that, but that it's real.
Yeah.
And that you're not alone, and that it's a huge buoy that should not be ignored.
Yeah. And I think that is such a good point. And I think this is true for everybody, but it's really especially true for, the audience that we're really talking to here. So, the underrepresented folks, the people who are a little more likely to feel alone.
Yeah.
And also a little more likely to have those experiences where you need a sanity check, where somebody says something screwed up to you and you have to say, oh my God, is it me? Is it them? Am I right to feel this way? And you need some help kind of navigating that. I think it can make all the difference in the world. And so I really if you are a woman, if you are a person of color, if you are a member of the LGBTQ community, and you work,
if there's anything about you that you think that makes you feel alone, I've had people confide in me who I had a guy break down in an interview years ago. White, male, appearances, everything that you needed.
Yeah.
But he broke down because it came out in the interview. I asked him about his motivation, that he is supporting his mother and his two brothers, one of which is incarcerated and one was a drug addict.
Yeah.
And so he's trying to literally hold his family together. I had no idea. And he confided in me in the interview in a way that was rough.
Yeah.
It was rough. But anything about your personality that can make you feel alone, having that network that you can confide in there is no way to put a value on it. And you don't know until you need it or until someone needs you how incredibly important it is. And I'll say this too. You said one thing I thought was really important that I want to adjust. It's not just when somebody says something to you that's really screwed up. It's when you have a reaction to something and you don't know why.
Yeah.
That's where I've really found a lot of value in the network, is somebody says something or suggests something and there's a new idea rolled out. And I'm like, I don't know how to feel about this.
Yep.
And usually that's your gut telling you something's wrong, or that you have something you've got to work through. But it's rarely a good idea to talk that through with the person who rolled it out to you.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to go to the person who signs your paycheck and say, hey, I've got a big issue with this.
No.
That's not a good idea. Trust me from experience. That goes badly.
And we all know when we're too quick to respond to things and we screw it up. And so oftentimes you need to say something like in the moment because you are fired up, and saying it to a close, trusted friend is gonna save you. And I think I won't name this person, but Ashleigh and I were on an email thread with someone that we both really appreciate and trust. And they were, talking about a job offer that they thought was going to come through and that they had some doubts about. And it was really obvious where it was like their ability to talk about it and our ability to be like, nope, you don't trust that.
No.
Like, you're
trust your gut.
And you could tell that just having someone else be like, no, your gut is right. Trust it, shifted things for them. And sometimes that's all it takes. Right. And I think that's where I would, that's why investing in building your community and building your friendships. And it's amazing I don't know, the crossover between work and friendships. And what's really interesting, especially as you get older, you start to have more opportunities to do work with friends, to do work with people that you really like, collaborating on things, starting a freaking podcast, right? All kinds of things. And so, but you need those friends first to kind of do that. And it's, you know, it's a slow process, but it's one that like you be consistent about it. And within a year or two, you will be astounded by how much your world has opened up and how much your life has changed.
No, and I'll give this one kind of final pitch for the importance of having a network. I know someone who's laid off recently, and they texted, I think, 15 or 20 people right after it happened. And basically they just went through their network until they found someone who was free.
Yep.
And just vented at them. It happened to be me. Just vented for 15, 20 minutes. And it was just to get it all out and keep going. But having those 15 or 20 people that, you know, would take your call and then just being able to work through it.
Yes.
Is, I got to find a better way to say it's super valuable, or it's essential, or it's whatever else. It's, you never think it's going to happen to you until it happens to you.
Yeah.
And if you don't know this already, it will happen to you. And that's okay. That's life, and it makes you stronger. The door closed, open window, all that stuff. But you got to have people around you who can remind you of that and who can start having those conversations with you, not just about like if there's a layoff or whatever, but where to go next and when to calm down, when it's in your own head, when it's not in your head, when you need creative solutions to random stuff, when you just need to vent at somebody. Everybody needs this in some form, and everyone will need it differently.
Yeah.
I think, like even Kasey, I think even you and I use networking differently too. I'm super verbal when it comes to processing my feelings. I have to talk things out.
Yeah. I
get the sense you're a little bit more introspective. Like you still process things verbally, but you like to kind of sit with it for a bit first.
I'm more of a loner. Yeah. And so you're right. But I need to, I don't know. I do some of the processing on my own. And then it's the kind of sharing of like what I've come up with. And I will also say, you know, we're talking a lot about like when things are hard. It's also really awesome when you have the people that you can freaking brag to and celebrate. When you have a win and you just want to share it, because you're not going to do that with your team because you don't want to be a bragger. But holy moly, when you know, like when you've got that friend that knows you've been going through a hard time or putting in really like a ton of work and it has paid off, the ability to like send that group text with a bunch of emojis and maybe a GIF, like holy moly, like it makes that personal celebration just feel so much sweeter and it's so wonderful.
Yeah, it's there. Yeah, there's nothing like your cheering squad.
Oh yeah,
that comes out and I definitely there was a Beyonce thread the other day I was on for somebody. It was just all Beyonce gifts, which was
awesome.
Oh, just it wasn't even for me, but I was on it. And I just got so fired up.
Hells yeah!
For this person, they got promoted to an AE. Finally, they've been at like 3 different companies and got passed over a ton. They finally got their AE position, and they're just killing it. And
that's amazing.
Oh my gosh, I got so fired up just being a part of like contributing my one little random. I don't even remember which one I sent, but there were like 50 gifts that I saved in my phone because they cracked me up. It's making me a Beyonce fan, and I wasn't particularly one before. I wasn't not a Beyonce fan. I just not really my cup of tea. I'm more of a David Bowie Queen.
I like Beyonce as a human. I'm not. I know it's like the most sacrilegious thing I'm gonna say, but like I'm not a super big fan of her music.
We're gonna get so much flack for this.
I know. I'm like such a white girl. It's a little embarrassing, but like, you know, don't get me wrong, like Queen Bey, but no, whatever.
I'll say this. I'm all about Lizzo lately.
Oh, hells yeah.
That is my girl right there.
Yes. Okay.
And especially because I realized that she's basically my age, which makes me really happy.
Yeah.
So it's like, yay.
We do cool things in our 30s.
Yeah. Okay. So now we know the importance of networking. We've hashed that to death. If you don't believe that, please tell us why we're wrong.
Yeah. Seriously.
We defy you. Okay. So now it's important. How?
So, okay. So I think there's like 4.
How do you get the tribe? How do you build this stuff?
Yeah. So I think there's 4 kind of main ways. And first and foremost, I got to be honest, it's social media. It's and this is also why I'm a huge advocate of kind of personal branding and doing that work. Um, it's a little absurd how many people I now consider very close friends that I met on either Twitter or LinkedIn. And but here's the deal. It's not just like, oh, I just post a bunch of stuff. No, like you've really got to engage and you've got to connect and you've got to, comment on their things, reply to threads, tag
So
people in things.
let me ask you something. So, okay, tagging and all that stuff's one thing.
Yeah.
One of the things I've found is tricky is getting people to, this sounds really, but getting people to engage with you.
Yeah.
Those of you who follow Kasey and I on Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever, you will see that Kasey gets significantly more interaction than I do. And it's something I'm working on in 2020, mostly by piggybacking wherever I can. But like, how do you get that engagement? If you're posting things, if you're replying to everyone who's commenting and trying to do that stuff, but you're not getting a ton of that, how do you build
So here's the deal. I think what makes the biggest difference is taking what you're doing on social media and taking it off. So if there's somebody that you've kind of been engaging with or who you think is really interesting, send them a direct message and be like, hey, I think you're really interesting. Could I buy you coffee? Could we have a call so I could just learn more about you? And that's what starts to make the biggest difference and starts to take you from, just an account that you kind of follow to an actual friend. And you'll see that then people's engagement with you starts to kind of skyrocket and goes off. The other thing I will say, which I think is a really big part of it, is being vulnerable. The stuff like when I'm just, and it's really interesting. It's like, I don't post that much about marketing. I don't post that much about sales. I post a lot about what I'm going through, what I'm thinking, stuff that is more personal, and people connect with that more and people engage a lot more. And it starts to create more of a conversation and not just a like, I don't know, shouting into the ether. But the other thing that I would say is it's also the amplifying others. So when you do admire someone or when you do have that coffee, talking about how great they are and how much you appreciate them, because what will wind up happening is a bunch of people will chime in and be like, oh my God, I love that person too. And now you two have started to kind of form a bond and be more connected. And it starts to like, I don't know, radiate from there.
I love that kind of. Sorry, I love the term radiate because immediately on my brain goes to like radiation, like the stuff that can kill you. And there's like, but like radiation of positivity.
Yeah. Yes.
And complete with like, if you can't see the video, it's me doing like a weird floaty hand, jazz hand thing with my face. It looks like a bad jellyfish. I like that idea. It's kind of, it's contagious and you can't stop it.
Yes.
So how do you balance and I know we're going kind of social media here, so we go back to networking in general in a sec, but I'm really curious. How do you balance social media for sales and for your prospects versus social media for network building?
So here's the deal. Well, one, I think platform tells you a lot. So you'll see like, I don't know, I'm very different on Twitter than I am on LinkedIn. I'm a little bit more business focused on LinkedIn because that's the platform. I'm a lot more sort of like, I don't know, human and personal on Twitter. But what I talk about with personal branding, I think there's a lot of people that think that the way they do personal branding when they're in sales is talk about their expertise in their product. Here's the deal. Like, yeah, okay. If let's say you've always sold analytics products and you're never going to sell anything else. Yeah, you can like brand yourself as the like sales expert in analytics. But for the most part, like talking about yourself, talking about your your experience, what you're learning, talking about your role as a salesperson, your prospects will also love that. And so if you look at like some of the sales leaders that have really huge brands, Scott Leese and Kevin Delaney are great examples. They're not talking about the products they sell, and they're not talking about the industry in which they sell them. They talk about their role as a sales leader and all of the things that go into it. And even if you're not looking at sales, like look at Dave Gearhart, who he just left VP of marketing at Drift, and he's going to announce his new role soon. But he doesn't talk really about, he never talks about Drift. He talks about his role as a marketer. And so,
well, and I'll piggyback on that. Like, even I come from a more hardcore tech space, and people who sell hardcore networking, hardcore, I say hardcore, but I mean like like quote unquote really technical stuff.
yeah,
The database softwares, the physical networking hardware, really nuanced analytics platforms, stuff like that. The top reps there don't use a lot of social because they are still selling primarily out of, let's be honest, their Rolodex and relationships they've built over the past 20 to 30 years. So LinkedIn for them is resharing stuff their company's putting out,
yeah,
combined with occasional promotions for things that matter to them. So I've seen a lot of people who I really respect promoting fundraisers their kids are doing,
yeah,
or nonprofit work that they're involved in. Hey, sharing major life events. I saw one person recently who mentioned that they are taking a leave of absence because their wife died. Just being honest and transparent about those sort of things.
being human.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. And that particular one really surprised me, because that was someone who I considered, and they're probably never going to listen to this because I doubt they know how to find podcasts, so I can say this. There's someone who I'd consider an old fogey.
Yeah.
With all the love and respect in the world to them. They taught me a ton. But they, like I was constant as I was an SDR, I was someone who this particular person would call to help him figure out how to update fields in Salesforce. And definitely, literally probably had a Rolodex on his desk, and really is kind of that classic old school mentality of how to sell, and was brilliant and is brilliant at it. So the idea of showing any sort of vulnerability really surprised me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if they hadn't done that, I wouldn't have known that this tragic thing had happened to them.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I get this now. And I was really impressed that they not just were sharing that, but I also thought, that actually makes a lot of sense from a business perspective for their prospects and their relationships to understand maybe why someone else at that company is going to be reaching out for a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. So there's a social media side of building your network.
Yeah.
What's step 2?
So I also think events are a big thing. And now, but it really comes down to kind of your mindset of what you're trying to accomplish at events and how you handle them. So obviously, you go to industry events so that you can connect with prospects and things like that, but also try going to, I don't know, community events or events for salespeople, where it's really about connecting with other people and kind of learning from them. And so making the goal not how many people you can quickly shake hands with and give your business card to, but like actually getting into some conversations. And again, the key here is what happens after.
Oh, yeah.
Follow up. Do you go get coffee with that person? Like actually turning someone into a friend and a more real connection, not just like another business card that you have sitting in a stack on your desk.
And I think that's a really interesting point, because some of the best connections, some of the first connections I made actually, even as an SDR, I would go to events. I'm working the booth. We've all done the booth.
Oh yeah.
Anytime there was a lull in the booth, I'd go meet the SDRs at the other booths.
Yep.
And it turned into, this was back in the days when you could do informal list swapping, which you can't really anymore due to privacy rules. Good and bad news there. But just going around and shaking hands. Hey, how's your of relationships? those sort of relationships can be really big. So even if you're at an industry event, just finding people who are targeting the same person as you can be a huge help for random ideas. And especially if you're at a really small startup. I mean, especially if you're at a really small startup that doesn't have a lot of marketing.
Yeah.
Finding ways to piggyback and do joint informal little things with each other can be everything.
Yeah.
Everything. So don't think, I mean, yes, obviously the sales events and stuff like that are great. I'm someone who, it's funny, like Kasey's kind of the introvert of the two of us. I'm definitely more of an extrovert, but I'm also someone who I do not give up my evenings and my weekends easily.
Yeah.
I work and I come home and I enjoy my time with my dog and my husband. So it better be a really good event for me to give that up. So I never really did those. I did like maybe a couple, but it was mostly lunches and breakfasts.
Yeah.
So for me, it was building that network through hitting up the booths and talking to the other pros who were there.
Yeah.
Was really, really key.
Yeah.
And then I'll say this too. You're not kidding about follow-up. I mean, how many times have you given someone your business card who you were certain, you know, who had asked for your help or asked for something like that, and nothing happens?
Exactly. And
it's insane.
And it's also, I mean, how many times do you have a conversation at an event, you get their business card and you're like, oh, I don't need to write a note on this, I'll totally remember. And you're like, who the hell is this person? Like, you need to take it to that next level to like actually connect with someone and turn a name into a person that you actually know.
I'll say this, that's actually something I'm really proud of. I'm neurotic about that.
Which is awesome.
Like, I still have your business card and it's somewhere, it's actually, I think I know where it is. I still have your business card that you gave me and I wrote on the back of it, girls' bathroom. So I would know, those of you who don't know our origin story. Just so I would know. And I am neurotic about having a bunch of pencils and pens. I've even lately started taking pictures with my phone and doing verbal memos to myself.
That's awesome.
Just little quick things, like I'll literally walk away from the booth, you know, Kasey Jones, girls' bathroom, follow up regarding women in sales.
Yeah.
Little quick things that I listen to it all at the end and transcribe it.
Yeah.
Super, super quick. There's no reason not to follow up. And it's shocking how few people do. So it's easy. It's really easy, especially if you're not following up to try and sell somebody.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, it's so easy to cut through the noise there.
And I'll also say, follow up with people that you think, I don't know, that intimidate you. Like, that's
especially the people that intimidate you.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things, like, I feel really lucky that, you know, so John Barrows and I are pretty good friends. And for years, it was like, why the hell would he want to be friends with me? But I kept following up, and like, we've been friends for like 7 years now. And I am very grateful that I didn't let the fact that he's like really cool and kind of a big deal, intimidate me so much that I avoided him or simply waited for him to contact me. And that's one of the things, like, I think if you've got imposter syndrome, if you're a little insecure, it can be really easy to be like, oh, they don't want to talk to me, or, oh, if they do want to talk to me, they'll reach out. Like, no, they're busy people, and they will be happy to take time with you and get to know you better, but you've got to do a little bit of that work. And also, they might be thinking the same thing. I mean, sometimes we think, oh, if that person wants to follow up with me, they will. But maybe they're thinking the exact same thing about you. So do it.
And I'll say this, I'm still nervous about reaching out to John Barrows.
Yeah.
Even though he's been incredibly nice and polite and remembers me and knows who I am, I still can't believe he does. I still fangirl out consistently over John Barrows. It's a thing. I need to get over it. I'll work on that in 2020. But even if things don't go well, like the first time, like I consider myself incredibly lucky that I've had a good relationship with Trish Bertuzzi.
Yes.
Incredibly lucky. She's absolutely brilliant. She's absolutely terrifying, and I love her for it. And the first time I met her, I kind of screwed it up. I literally approached her at an event and I said, I'm a huge fan. I've read your book like 4 times. You know, if you haven't read her sales development playbook, you need to go read it, like right now. Especially if you're anywhere in sales or hey, we talked about this, and I know not many people really enjoy cold calling. And Jimmy's like, what are you talking about? I love cold calling. That's my favorite part of the day. I'm like, I just, but at the same time, like I ping her a couple days later, just, hey, thank you so much for taking the time. I spoke to her for 5 seconds, maybe. Like I literally inserted myself in a conversation I did not belong in, just to make sure she knew who I was. And just dropped her an email and said, hey, I would really appreciate your thoughts and connecting and stuff like that. And she was so generous and so kind, and still is. One of the things I tell people a lot, even when they're working with me and I'm helping them with something, is we're sales professionals.
Yeah.
Like, practice your damn sales skills and follow up. Like, it's really simple. But it's something that's so easy to forget and so easy to deprioritize. And I know I'm guilty of it. But especially when it comes to people that scare you or that you really respect, taking that extra second to be vulnerable and say, hi, if you can give me some time, here's what I want to talk about, or I want to learn more about this, or I'd love to buy you coffee or whatever else.
Yeah.
I have only ever had one person throw it back in my face out of dozens and dozens of people that I've reached out to.
And I would also
say, a community that is so kind and so generous.
And I would also say
insane.
It's okay to be persistent. So
yeah.
One thing I really appreciate at Surf and Sales, Kevin Delaney showed us the fact that it took, I think, 2 or 3 messages before Scott Leese responded to him. And Kevin was like, dude, I know he's busy. And so I sent him another message a couple months later, or like a month later. And that time he followed up. And so it's like, also like, just don't take things personally. Yes, if somebody is really rude to you, either, I don't know, write them off or know that you did something kind of screwed up and figure out which. But
check
most
yourself
of the time,
and then write it off.
Yeah. If somebody just doesn't respond, send another message. Or if you do have a back and forth and then they don't respond, send another message. Like,
it's sales 101, people.
Yeah. People
have lives. Stuff happens. If somebody's reacting to you a specific way, it probably has nothing to do with you.
Seriously, don't be a narcissist.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love this idea that I gotta say that we gotta do an episode of this. I love this fallacy that so many executives have, that an SDR can kill a deal at a company. Like, if an SDR has a call with a C-level and it goes badly, that the company will never do business with you. No. Unless you're unless your product is that weak, there is nothing.
I mean, maybe
that can be done on one call.
Maybe if the SDR starts like screaming expletives at a prospect or something, or says
even then, you have the manager call and follow up and apologize and explain that's not what the company does. Now you created a reputation for holding your own people accountable. Oh wow, that's a terrible thing to have in a business relationship.
Well, so I know someone, when I was still an SDR manager, someone on my team, it was his like first day. And actually it wasn't when he was on my team that he did this. It was like right before, and then he moved to my team. But on his very first day, he did what we have all done. He sent an email out, I don't know, probably to like 100 prospects. And he got the tokens wrong.
Yep.
So they all got the email that's like, hi,
first name.
And like, and one guy, like most people ignored it. One guy wrote back and was extremely rude and sent him, like, just was so like pissed off. And it was just this really intense response. This guy responded, apologized, was like, I'm so sorry. It's my first day. I screwed up. Like, I really apologize, whatever. A year later, the guy sent him an email and was like, hey, I was really mean to you about your email screw up about a year ago. I'm actually looking at your product now. Could we talk? And that deal closed. So
I can think of at least 3 deals that I have been tangentially involved with or aware of that literally exist because an SDR screwed up.
Yeah.
Because it stands out. Because either a manager stepped in or I closed. I had a prospect who literally said, and I vividly remember this, it was like a 15-minute call. It got hyper technical, way more technical than it should have gone. I went down the technical rabbit hole 5 levels deeper than I should have, but I did it and I was good at it. But this guy was just convinced that this was at FireEye. So it's next generation threat protection and threat detection. This was many years ago now, but he was convinced that we were what's called a NAC, a network access controller. Absolutely convinced. We're not. We were not. And I explained that to him 10 different ways to Sunday. And every time I explained it to him, he kept contradicting me and saying, well, then how do you do this? Well, we don't do that. We do this. Like a 15-minute call. And finally, at the end of it, he says, I've heard really good things about FireEye. I'm really surprised they would hire someone as dumb as you. And then hung up on me. Straight up. I walked over to my AE and told him exactly what happened, that this guy just was not listening. He now thinks I'm an idiot. I don't care what he thinks of me, but I'll bet you anything, if you call him right now and apologize for my stupidity, you'll probably get a demo out of it. Guess what happened?
Yep.
Got a demo. And I got free lunch out of it because the AE felt bad that I had been put through that.
And this is for another conversation, but I'm sure that guy was just sexist and didn't believe that a young woman knew what she was talking about. But that's a whole separate thing.
Yeah, it was actually a fun lesson in nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with me. And it rarely is.
No.
Talked a lot about that. Anyway, but again, that speaks to the networking. I had that relationship that I could go, that connection. Yes. I could go and say, hey, this thing happened. And this person knew me enough to know that.
Yeah.
He validated, no, you did the right thing. You're okay. You're not dumb. He was very kind enough to say that pretty quickly. But then 2, was willing to go in and knew what I cared about was closing the deal and getting my money.
Yeah.
So he made sure I got my money.
Well, so that brings us to a really good point. And I hadn't originally thought to kind of talk about this, but also know that building your network within your company is really important too. And so I'm a big advocate of at least once a month, and maybe more often than that, find someone in your company, both on your team, but also on a completely different team, to take out to coffee. Set aside like a coffee budget for every single month and take a couple of different people from a couple of different departments out to coffee and just say like, hey, I want to learn more about what you do. If you're early in your sales career, if you're an SDR, it's a great way to learn if you want to stay as an SDR or if you want to go into a different department. It's a really good way to kind of make allies within your company, find sponsors, but also just, build that network. So like, again, if you are an SDR and somebody has a question that you can't answer because it's super specific to the product, like then you might have a PM or a developer who's now a friend who you can reach out to and be like, hey, how would you answer this question?
Yep.
And a little goes a long way there. But again, it takes kind of that investment and getting people sort of outside of away from their desk so that you can connect on a kind of a more personal level.
Yeah. And even if it's not coffee, one of the ways I got very technical very quickly was bonding, whether through bad jokes or email threads or whatever, with SE, sales engineers.
Yes.
Like that. If you're selling a technical product, that's my number one tip to SDRs or AEs is make sure you got at least 2 really good friends who are SEs.
Yeah.
Oh Lord, it makes a difference in the world.
Huge difference.
But at the same time, I mean, if you're at a bigger company, that's easier. Just make sure like you've got kind of a friend in each department, somebody who will take your Slack message. If you're at a smaller company, sometimes you have to explain it to people. Hey, I just want to make sure I've got a better understanding of your role and what you do, what your day-to-day is like, just approach it from the perspective of, and make it clear to them, you're just trying to get a better sense of how business works.
Totally.
If you're an AE, oh my gosh, that's even more important because that network within your company is going to be what's going to get a deal over the finish line at 1:45 p.m. on the 31st of December.
Without a doubt.
That is literally the difference between closing a deal at the last minute and not. If you can call so-and-so in CS and then so-and-so in product and then so-and-so in marketing and then so-and-so in legal.
Yeah. And I
Knowing
think,
those things is everything.
and I do think we'll do another episode that's just about building your internal network.
Yeah.
Because that's a whole other thing. So the other thing that I think is really important, and we've kind of touched on this already, but is take your sales development know-how and apply it to connecting and meeting people that you admire, you respect, you just plain think are interesting. I think it's really interesting to me. Like, I've had this conversation with some people on my team. They feel awkward about this, like that they have to have a reason to reach out. And the reason can just be like, hey, you seem really interesting. I'd love to learn more about the work you do.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a big thing. Look at people that are doing similar roles. Look at people that are, I don't know, have a great presence on social media that you find fascinating.
I've made some really good connections just by reaching out. I've moved a fair amount in my sales career just by literally hitting up people in my role in my city and saying, hi, I'm new to the area. I'm trying to connect with other sales pros in the area.
Yeah.
Let me know if let me know if you're down for coffee at some point. And
Yes.
At the very minimum, I get a LinkedIn connection. And at best, I get someone who's like, hey, yeah, let's meet up and do lunch here.
Yeah.
Boom.
And it's a little really goes a long way, but you've got to be consistent about it. And so, and with all of these, I know it sounds a little counterintuitive, but be disciplined about it. Like, so I've got a friend, Gina Riley, who she has her online networking time. She blocks out time on her calendar every single week to where she goes onto LinkedIn and comments on a bunch of things, sends connection requests and follow-up messages. And she's also really fascinating. Like, she'll find out that someone who she really respects is writing a new book, and she'll reach out to them and be like, hey, I know you're writing a book about this. I've got some experience in it. I've got some ideas. Let me know if you want to talk. She's now going to be quoted in 3 new books because she's done this. And so there's all kinds of things that you can do. Like, if there's a thing you want to learn, there's a thing you want to share. People love talking about themselves. So just give them the opportunity to do that, and they will love you for it, and they will give you a lot of time and attention. And it's amazing how many connections you can make that way and how quickly your network can genuinely really grow.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to make that a 2020 plan for myself.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's interesting. So one of the things I'm planning on doing, and this is a less on building my network, but more strengthening it, is one of my plans for 2020 is I'm going to write at least 10 thank you notes every month.
Ooh, I like that.
I have a history of writing them and then never sending them. So I literally have a stack of Valentine's Day cards that I filled out for a bunch of women that I just really respect for Valentine's Day from 2 years ago that I never sent. So I'm really bad about these things, but this year is the year that I'm going to make it happen.
Oh, I'm stealing that Valentine's Day idea.
Oh,
that's brilliant.
I totally stole it from Leslie Knope in Parks and Recreation. Also, I kind of feel like maybe the other side of sales needs to do a Valentine's Day party or event this year.
I think we should, especially as a February 15th birthday. Valentine's Day is super awkward for me.
So let's make it. I like this. Let's make it super amazing. Let's have some fun with that. Maybe we pick a city and we go somewhere and we throw a Valentine's Day party.
Oh, I like this.
Yeah. So
maybe that's our road show.
I think maybe that's how we kick off our road show.
Ooh, that'd be fun. If anyone's interested in hosting the Other Side of Sales Valentine's Day party, hit us up.
Hit us up.
Pause for ad.
Yeah.
That seemed like a good pause for ad moment. Totally. All right, how are we going to close this thing?
Okay, I got it. Okay, so that is a lot of advice on how you build your network. And one thing that I will just say to kind of encourage all of you is start with us.
Yeah.
Reach out to us, connect with us. start testing that network building kind of know-how. And we will, and also let us know kind of what you're struggling with, what you're working on. We are more than happy to help introduce you to other people that you should know, help amplify whatever you are doing. And that'll be a really easy and kind of fun way for you to kick things off in the new year.
Absolutely. And bonus points if you leave a review on iTunes or your other podcast serving app of choice.
Hells yeah.
With a request for amplification, trust me, that'll get our attention real quick.
Flattery will get you everywhere.
Absolutely. But thank you all so much. Please, please, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, review, all that great stuff. And we'll make sure to build that stuff. And don't forget to also check out the Other Side of Sales community on Bravado.
Yes.
If you're not signed up for that, make sure to go to othersideofsales.com for all the details. That's where you can access not just all of our content, but also connect with other listeners and have some really cool and fun discussions about everything Other Side of Sales, and well as just a general kind of safe environment, and to get all the latest information about all the amazing things we've got planned. And trust me when I say there's some good stuff coming.
There's a ton coming. It's a little ridiculous.
It's very ridiculous. We're a little stressed right now.
Yeah.
For all the right reasons.
Yes.
All right. Thanks for listening.
Question mark? Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.